Hey there, my friends. Let's awaken together today by dancing with what is a pretty provocative question. Good things are happening to me, so why am I self-destructing? This isn't bad things are happening, so why am I self-destructing? That's a little bit more straightforward and easier to dance with. Yet I think this question, good things are happening to me, so why am I then self-destructing? I think this question takes us deeper into the mystery of our heart, our mind, maybe even our soul. And this question comes to me from a viewer, and I'd like to read her specific wording because I think it's going to be great traction for you and I to sort of tread deeper into our own selves. So the question says, Dear JP, that's me, I'm at a time in my life where everything finally starts falling into place. I get immense pleasure out of my yoga practice, meditation, relationships with my family have never been better. And I recently got a job offer as a flight attendant, and that's been a professional aim of mine for the past couple of years. I fought hard to obtain that. And then she goes on, I feel like everything I need to be happy is in place. But I seem to mess everything up for myself. I'm going back to old self-destructive patterns. It's like things are going too well for me. I fall into this hole where I feel deeply depressed. I only want to sleep and I want to disappear. I get major episodes of binge eating. I can't get myself to do the things that usually bring me joy, like hug my little sister, be mindful, and live a healthy life. So as this concludes, she says, even the love from my relatives has become unbearable. It's like I just want to bury myself into discomfort, negative feelings, and a negative attitude. I'm trying hard to find the unresolved emotional wound that's causing these patterns of self-destruction, yet it seems to be buried pretty deep. Thank you for this wonderful question. I will go out on a limb. First, I won't go out on a limb and say, I'm going to share a perspective with you to consider that may be very inaccurate for you, and it might be somewhat accurate. I will ask you to be the judge of that. So based on my experience working with a lot of clients who have had this pattern, great things are happening, so I self-destruct, almost like I'm trying to mess it up. I'm going to ask you to consider, what if you found out you have a fear of being nurtured? A fear of receiving. So a pattern of rejecting nurturing, rejecting receiving. So if this is true, if it's of course an epicenter that would lie deep inside that causes these kind of tremors on the outside of depression and withdrawal and binge eating, self-destruction. So taking a look at this potential epicenter that you and I and many other people may just have going on inside of us, this epicenter that says, I am rejecting nurturing. First off, what is the nurturing that's being potentially rejected here? Well, I would dare say it's life nurturing you in a way that says, here's a great job. Not only the great job, but the money involved with it, the happiness, the satisfaction involved with it, the nurturing of here's great yoga meditation practice and the satisfaction involved with that. So there's some of the nurturing. And by the way, this is the nurturing that it sounds like you served up for yourself. You followed your dreams. You served up what some of your dreams are. I want to be a flight attendant. You ordered it, and part of you seems to be rejecting it. So getting Now deeper into the epicenter, why might that be? Why would we have a fear of receiving that causes us to create essentially an energy force in our life that rejects nurturing? That's a great question. I'm going to be very specific to you based on my opinion that's based on my experience, because you give some cool background information. What I'll specifically ask you to consider is, you mentioned you have a little sister. As far as what could be a possible genesis that causes the fear of nurturing, I'll ask you to consider, what would it be like for you to be a little girl, being the sole focus of your father's attention, mother's attention, and then you have a little sister come along, like you did once upon a time. Oh, what would that have been like? We could imagine, yeah, there's great joy involved, happiness involved. And what if you also found out that sort of the shadow side of having your little sister come into your life was you experienced an incredible lack of nurturing, an incredible lack of receiving as much as you used to when you were the only one. So what my questions here are pointing to is, what if you found out you have deep unresolved pain about essentially feeling rejected once your little sister came along? So I'd ask all of us to imagine, and I know having little siblings is a part of life, and yes, it happens to 50% of people. But let's not let that discount potential deep pain that's happening here. If we go from our perspective as a kid, being the sole universe of our parents, 100% of their available attention lands on us. And now a few years later, there's another sibling that comes along, in this case, a little sister. And this little sister, she's an attractive force for mom and dad's attention. And in fact, she's younger. She's just a baby. So not only does she take some of their attention from me, but she actually needs more of it. She's needier. She's a baby, and I'm a kid. I'm 3 years old at this point. So what does that mean to the heart of me, the child with a little sister? Well, it means I'm getting less attention. My rational mind can say, well, that's because of a little sister and she needs attention. But maybe what it means to my heart is I don't matter anymore, or at least I don't matter as much. Maybe it also means shame of feeling insignificant. Maybe it also means fear. Like I feel alone relative to how connected I felt when I had 100% of their attention. So if any of this is half true, what we're here to consider is, what if that's pain? What if that's the deep, unresolved emotional wound that you're still stuck in, that programmed you to say, when I receive nurturing, like I did the first few years of my life before my little sister came along, then that nurturing gets taken away. So we actually learn to fear nurturing because our life experience programmed us to expect, when I receive nurturing, it will then get taken away. And when it's taken away, I feel torn apart. I feel like I'm insignificant. I don't matter. And that's a deep pain that I, in a child, can't possibly describe with words. So as life has been nurturing you, and as you've been nurturing yourself here in your present day life, self-practice, you've got a job, that equals nurturing. And perhaps you've learned to fear nurturing because of what happens next with nurturing. I get rejected, I get disconnected from. And again, our adult minds, our rational minds say, that doesn't make sense. I wasn't rejected. My parents just had to care for my baby sister. And yes, that's all true. Yet our hearts don't function rationally. Our magical mind as a child, where we believe we are the center of the universe and everything that happens and doesn't happen, we believe it's our fault. As a kid, that's part of our innocence. That's where the wounding potentially comes into play. So we all need to be nurtured, but when we have learned to program ourselves through our painful experience that nurturing equals rejection, which equals unbearable pain. So if anything looks like nurturing, I'm going to reject that. I'm going to self-destruct as a way of closing myself off from nurturing. You mentioned, I just want to disappear. Perhaps just like I felt like I disappeared to my family. And if I could stay disappeared, that means I'll never have to connect to them again, which means I won't have to go through the pain of being torn apart with being rejected again. And as we all need nurturing, yet if we start to be defended against nurturing, fear it, block it, resist it, I won't receive nurturing, then our need for nurturing will then get expressed in a misdirected way. And here you mention binge eating. Maybe what that symbolically means, and it's a maybe, please let your mind and heart tell you what's more true for you, but maybe what it means is I have a deep hunger inside for nurturing, yet I'm afraid of it because I'm still stuck in the pain of what happened when I was younger. So I'm going to try and nurture myself in a very unnurturing way, yet I have this nurturing need. It's got to be expressed somehow, but I won't let it be expressed directly because that's too scary for me. So it's getting expressed here maybe indirectly, where I'm binge eating, trying to nurture myself in a very unnurturing way, which certainly won't satiate the unsatiable need for nurturing. So the binge eating is perhaps a symptom of how hungry you are for being nurtured. And the depression that causes you to disconnect, the self-destruction, is perhaps a symptom of the fear reaction to push the nurturing away. So, if any of this is half true, the most important thing we could then consider is, what do we do about it? It's one thing to be aware of this potential deep, hidden, unresolved wound that we may have had zero conscious awareness of. But if it's half true, what do we do about it once we become aware of it? Great question. Specifically, what I'd ask you to do, if this resonates with you, and if not, click this video off and watch another video of mine. If it resonates with you, I'm going to ask you to go back in your imagination, take time. You sit there and you go back in your imagination and be the little girl, however old you were when your little sister came along. And be that little girl. And feel what it feels like deep inside. And if you can't do that, imagine what it feels like deep inside. Feel how much you believe you matter. Now that mom and dad notice her more. And to help get you there, I'll ask you to say these words out loud to yourself and see what feelings they bring up. I'd ask you to say, I'm just a little girl. and I feel completely invisible and unwanted. How does that feel for you to say out loud? If it halfway resonates, then what I'll ask you to say out loud to yourself is, I'm a little girl and I have a lot of pain, and it's okay. It's now safe for me to feel it. And it's okay my heart broke. It's now okay for me to feel it. So what I'm asking you to do with these steps, should you choose to accept them, is to go back and help process through experiencing and digesting the pain that part of you is still perhaps stuck in. When we're stuck in our pain, we will stay defended and reactive to what we believe caused our pain. If I never receive nurturing again, then it can never be taken away. So nurturing becomes what we defend against. As long as we are still stuck in our original pain, we'll always be defended against nurturing because it saves us from feeling invisible, unwanted, insignificant. So I'd ask you to play with these few short insights and steps that I've given you, the purpose being to help digest the pain that you're perhaps stuck in so that you don't have to keep defending against nurturing, not receiving from what life has to offer and what you are offering yourself. Essentially what we're working here is, it's like if you imagine a hungry person, they're almost starving to death. They even sit down and order food at a restaurant. The food comes, but they self-destruct to disengage them from eating the very food that they need, that they ordered, that they asked for. So we're working on becoming the hungry person who will receive, accept, and take in the nurturing, the food that they need. So the starving person who won't eat once upon a time became phobic about food. So thank you for investing in some of these considerations to go back and help yourself with where you learn to fear nurturing. So thank you for this lovely question, dear viewer of mine, and thank you for everybody else watching this. I hope you can consider, what is your version of fear of nurturing and how self-destruction saves you from it, and more importantly, how you can save yourself from the self-destruction. Actually, for me, as I'm listening to what we've laid out here, this is a lot of food for thought. It really is. It's too much to put into one video, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'd also invite you to consider watching another video of mine called Freedom from Self-Sabotage. I'll put a link to it here on the screen. If you're watching on your iPhone, that might not show up, so I'll have a link to it in the description below. Feel free to check that out. And so that you don't have to hit your self-destruct button, I'd ask you to consider instead hitting the subscribe button to my channel if you haven't done so already. And I will look forward to talking with you soon.